present.
The
so.
uncle.
Let's do it.
Here we go. And 5, 4, 3, 2.
It's okay, buddy.
It's not. It's really not
It's
okay.
okay.
It's not okay at all.
If you want it, you can have it. That is the NFC East up for grabs.
Truly.
And stay woke, because the Redskins will catch you creeping if you are not too careful, Philadelphia. I swear to God they're going to win this division. Welcome in to another edition of Trust the Process Live with Mr. Five Digits, Max Coolish, with nothing but net James Jackson, net standing for the new ET.
He just made that up like 5 minutes ago. He's really proud of himself. It's a good nickname, though.
2 minutes before it came. It was pretty good.
It was pretty good.
I am your host, Sean Northcave. Thank you for joining us on another. It wasn't a wonderful Monday in
No, it
Philadelphia.
wasn't.
It was
Well,
snowy,
terrible week.
slushy.
3 straight for my Bucks. 3 straight. It was wonderful yesterday.
No,
Thank you.
Nobody
Thank you,
cares.
sir.
It was
you,
not
sir.
a good day yesterday, even though Doug Peterson said that the Eagles played a good team, which is highly questionable to say the least. Gentlemen, who is Doug trying to convince when he speaks like this?
Himself, the Eagles fans, the players, anybody.
That's all I have. Anybody who will
Anybody,
listen.
anybody.
Anybody who will listen.
Look, it's kind of damage control. It's what, if you don't want to pop off at the media, you want to kind of keep your emotions in check, which Doug Peterson is pretty good at. It's something you kind of have to say as a head coach after coming off an embarrassing loss like that, to try to not have the whole city blow up, or kind of keep your team morale, whatever's left of it, kind of intact so everyone doesn't start pointing fingers and go down each other's heads in the locker room. But to me, it was a little bit of self-clarity. It was a little bit of a check, because you only say the Dolphins are a good team if you're a bad football team. That's how the Dolphins stack up to you. If you're a good football team, the Dolphins are not good to you. But if you're a mediocre to bad football team, we played another mediocre to bad football team, which kind of almost puts them on our playing field, which is, I think, unintentionally what Doug Peterson is kind of saying is, they might not be that good, but this is where we are. So that, to us, is a good football team.
So I'm not going to sit here and try to sell you that the Dolphins are a good team.
Don't sell it to me. Go
in
ahead,
any
try.
capacity. They're good enough to beat the Jets, who just lost to the 0-11 Bengals, and they're good enough to. I don't even remember who their other win was. Anyway,
Cowboys.
Yeah, exactly. I wish. My only thing that I can really add to this is that this is straight out of the playbook of a European soccer manager. Right? If you look at the people, like the all-time greats, like, for example, Sir Alex Ferguson, longtime Manchester United manager, successful as there's ever been in the sport. Whenever a team like United's a little different, since there's not supposed to be competitive balance in European soccer, but when you have a team that's a Goliath like Manchester United that loses to, whatever, 12th place team in the Premier League at home, the manager will come out and they might just start wilding out and say something totally outlandish just to kind of get the heat off of the players of the game. To me, this screams Doug is just saying, look, give me everything, let those guys go, because he knows that he is the one who blew that game. And I think this is him trying to fall on the grenade, the stake, the sword, the spear, whatever you want to call it. This is what this quote screams to me.
I get that, and there are times to do that, and there are times to hold your football players accountable. The Eagles are a great football team this year, but they're not Miami Dolphins bad.
There's no excuse losing that game.
To go out there and alleviate blame off of players who deserve and should be able to handle that type of criticism and that type of blame is almost self-detrimental in itself, because it's not holding people accountable. Like, if you want to hold people accountable, hold them accountable. There's no way the kicker should score a touchdown.
Let me give you
There's
a
no way
counterpoint
Devontae
here.
Parker should do all that. Hold people accountable.
Is immediately after blowing a 2-touchdown second half lead on the road against a really, really terrible team, is that the exact moment to really pile on your guys when still, and I can't believe that I'm saying this, when still, if the Eagles just win out, they can still win this division. Look, I think as of this very moment, we will get the piss kicked out of us by whoever ends up in the 5th wild card spot between Seattle and the 49ers. But if you're the head coach, your job is not worry about what might happen in the playoffs. Your job is to get there. So you can't just blow up everything and that exact look. I think he wanted to. I think the players all want to. I don't think there's anybody in the greater, eastern half of Pennsylvania that is happy with how things went on Sunday. But the reality is that if you just throw everybody to the dogs right now, you're giving up on the season when there is somehow still something to play for.
And this is a good point. Chris Long brings this up a lot. When you call out a player like that, and we're not in these NFL locker rooms, it is very emasculating to some of the most masculine people that live today in America. So you have to choose. You got to pick your spots on that. You got to do it when it's deserved. Because if you're just pounding on everybody, then you're going to lose their respect. Yeah. But if you're not holding people accountable, you're going to lose their respect too. So that brings us to our second question. Did Fitzpatrick win this game, or did the Eagles' defense lose this game and deserve that sort of treatment?
Neither. Neither one of those are correct. As far as I'm concerned, the offensive and defensive play calling was absolutely abysmal. -5 out of 10 for Doug and Jim Schwartz. The second half, I mean, you might as well just auto-simmed on Madden, and you probably could have got a better result. The Eagles ran the ball 3 times. 3 times total. Total in the second half. That is inexcusable. The Dolphins are the worst run defense in the league. You shouldn't have thrown a pass in the second half. There was one point halfway through the third quarter, the Eagles are up 28-14. I don't know how many of those rushing attempts came after, but even if one of them came before, that means you had 2 rushing attempts in almost 25 minutes of game. That is unacceptable. You are trying to get out of a road game with a win. You should not be throwing the ball on any down that does not start with a 3. As far as I'm concerned, Doug's offensive play calling absolutely blew it, and Jim Schwartz's refusal to double a wide receiver who is torching the Eagles comes back and bites him in the ass again. He was relying on the pressure to get there like it was in the first half, but when it stops getting there in the second half and you know that they're going to be passing every down, you do something to combat that. The Dolphins, cannot run. Clearly they had success throwing the ball, and the fact that Schwartz and Doug and whoever else is involved with that didn't do anything, didn't do a single thing to adjust or change or anything is absolutely mind-boggling and infuriating.
We got to cool off coolish.
Yeah, to me,
I can't. I literally can't because the 3 of us could have done a better job. We could have picked out of the hats, offense, defense, special teams. We could have brought that win home. We could have.
I think I could have brought that win home.
We could have.
I could have done something to bring that win home. First of all, Devontae Parker's, I'm going at his knees, or I'm doing something. Like
sweep the legs, dude.
I'm doing
sweep the legs. Sweep the legs, Johnny.
I'm doing something. But to me, that offensive play calling by Doug Peterson showed me that he was never comfortable in that game. 2 touchdown lead or not, whether he should have been comfortable and started packing the bus and taking air out of the football or not, he was never comfortable. He never one time looked up at the score, looked at this football game and said, if we take our foot off the gas pedal a little bit, if we run and try to run the clock out, I do not think we come out of here with a win. He kind of overcoached himself and ended up blowing it anyway because of that play calling. But I think he felt the need we have to keep foot on the gas right now. 1, not let up our pressure. And 2, I haven't seen our offense is not good enough to have the luxury of, okay, now take the second half off. Let's kind of coast this rest of the way.
I'm not saying take the second half off. I'm saying attack the weakness. The Dolphins can't stop the run. There was one point where they scored 5 touchdown drives in a row. You got to do something to get your defense a rest. You got to do something.
We've gone over this, that Doug Peterson's self-destructive need to force the ball back in Carson's hands and say, I want you to be a reason we come out with a victory. Like, I need one game this season where it was, wow, that was Carson Wentz that got us that victory. He hasn't done it yet. Before we move on, let me answer the question. I think we have to give a little bit of credit to Ryan Fitzpatrick, a little bit. Like, the Dolphins are an inferior team. The Eagles probably lost that game. But going 5 for 5, 5 drives and 5 touchdowns, having Devontae Parker go off and really commanding that second half for Ryan Fitzpatrick, you got to give him a little bit of credit for what he was able to do against that Eagles defense coming back from a 2-touchdown lead. It's also not the first time that Ryan Fitzpatrick has torched the Eagles. The second time in a row he's done that to the Eagles defense. And I think I don't hate the defensive play calling by Jim Schwartz. When you have a second, for all intents and purposes, a second-string quarterback and an inferior wide receiver core, you're kind of comfortable letting your defensive backs go one-on-one, and we just got to get the ball out of his hands quick, not let him make these long passes down the field, which is what we know Ryan Fitzpatrick is good at. Force him to get the ball out quickly by getting some pressure on him.
And it sounds like neither of you guys are willing to put the blame on the roster, even though we've had some talks in the past couple weeks that some of the players might be the issue. So I want to extend this next question a little bit further. Is anyone safe on this roster? And that includes the coaching staff. We're going to save Doug EP for a second, but the coaching staff, is anyone safe?
I don't think Jim Schwartz is safe. I think Jim Schwartz is. They're going to run. If the coaching staff doesn't, Philadelphia might run Jim Schwartz out of town after the showing in the past couple of weeks, even after the great games against Seattle and New England. I think really the only people 100% safe are probably Carson Wentz, Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson, and Fletcher Cox and Malcolm Jenkins. But past those 5, I wouldn't be surprised to see anybody else really on this roster move. Like, do I expect other people to move? No. But if I saw their name in a trade or saw their name being let go in the offseason, I would not be surprised if it's outside of those 5 players.
A couple more people just to add on. I think Doug is the only untouchable coach, and maybe Deuce.
In the league?
No.
Oh, okay. I was going to say,
on the
okay.
staff.
Of course.
Whew.
No, if we're talking about untouchable coaches in the league. We
Like,
gotta-
I hope my coach isn't untouchable.
Yeah, no. And I think Deuce is probably a lock to not go anywhere, considering running back's been like kind of a bright spot offensively this year.
And we haven't used them enough to see if Deuce has done a good job or
Exactly.
not.
So my list of 10 players that I have, I know that will 100% be on the Eagles roster next year. Wentz, Miles Sanders, Brandon Brooks, Lane Johnson, Andre Dillard, Jason Kelsey, Malcolm Jenkins, Derek Barnett, Fletcher Cox, Jake Elliott, Cam Johnson.
Cam Johnson surprised me.
Punter, he's one of the best punters in the league. You don't just give that up, honestly.
You always forget about the punter. So we know Max's answer in this next one, but we still need to go through it. Will there be 4 new coaches in the NFC East next year? You obviously think Doug
I
stays.
think you're jumping the gun. You're putting words in my mouth.
Oh.
I think there will be 4 new coaches in the
You just
NFC next
you
year.
just said Doug is the only untouchable coach in the Eagles staff.
But this doesn't say head coaches. I think we get 3 new head coaches, and we get Mike Groh out of town. Get him out of here.
Sneaky move.
3
Mr.
head
Five
coaches,
Digits.
one
sneaky
offensive
move.
coordinator, probably a new defensive coordinator. But yeah, no, it's hilarious to think that how bad the other head coaches in the division are. It really is. It
No,
makes
terrible. No, terrible.
They're terrible.
I would
They are
actually,
awful.
Doug Peterson is probably the best coach in the NFC East right now, and that's that's saying a lot. I don't see the Redskins or the Giants holding on to either of their head coaches. And
I hope Pat Shermer stays. He is so brain
bad.
dead.
Like,
He's
you
so
can't-
brain dead.
He was a great OC.
Yeah, for like the 2005 Chargers.
Right.
Lord.
And look, Dan Snyder's such a bad owner that he might just keep things how they are in Washington and say, hey, might as well try it. Let's see. We weren't, absolutely abysmal.
We
this
won
year,
2
so-
games once this guy took over.
Yeah,
That's improvement.
let's do something. And short of the Dallas Cowboys winning, literally going to the Super Bowl or winning it, I don't see Jason Garrett surviving this. I mean, Jerry Jones.
Not even if they get a home playoff win over Seattle.
I mean,
Right. I love that if that means Jason Garrett stays
If
again.
they get a home, right? Because then we just see this next year. Then we
Then
just
I get to be 5-7 through 12 games and still
And have a
home for a
chance,
division.
and have a
Yes.
chance.
4 coaches. How many of them are heading out? 4 head coaches, max.
3 head coaches are heading out.
Dougie P's gonna stay?
Doug P stays.
Fire Mike Groh.
So I think that there are going to be 2 new head coaches next year. I think the Cowboys are going to have a new head coach, and I think the Redskins are going to have a new head coach. But in the parameters of this question, loopholing just like my good friend Max Coolish, we're talking about new to the NFC East, and Jason Garrett moving from Dallas to New York is not technically new in the NFC East to me. So that's 2 new head coaches.
First of all, you guys both had different plans for this question. I'm taking it straight up.
Think
You
outside
guys
the
both,
box, man.
You guys are both taking it crazy.
That's a take right there, but I mean, why not? That's kind of what Jason Garrett did. He kind of took them from this was 10 years ago at this point, but they were kind of like a young and inexperienced team at the time, and he did whatever he does.
Either way, there are going to be many new teams trying to check some boxes low and high next year. And as we move into halftime, I'd love to tell you about Hit 'em High, our wonderful noon program taking place every Monday with Seth Joiner, Scott Seidenberg, and Everett Terry. It's always a good time. It is the most in-depth. I absorb a lot of sports media content. I learn something new from listening to Seth every time I tune in. So if you want to be a better fan, if you want to have a little bit more insight on what's going on in the game, check out Hit 'em High with Seth Joiner, Mondays at noon, only on My New Philly. And guys, we're going to move into the second half of the show now with a little truth or not. So, this first question, the main event was tough for you, Coolish. But this first question should get you off your horse a little bit.
I'm over the Eagles game with this question. You're right.
Are the Flyers the most exciting team in the city? Truth or not?
Absolutely. Try to tell me that the Flyers.
What is more exciting than watching a good team with no expectations? What is more exciting than that? It doesn't matter. If you're playing with house money year round. The Flyers still in a good playoff spot, still playing well, still beating good teams at home and on the road. At this point, they could lose every game the rest of the year, and I'll still have a blast watching them because I had 0 expectations coming into this year. At this point, we are 3 weeks from Christmas. If you are in the playoffs or contending, that's halfway almost halfway through the regular season, right? That's when you start to look at people more seriously in the NBA and the NHL. What are you doing at Christmas, New Year's time? Are you fading? Are you picking up steam? Where are you, right? If the Flyers can hold true for a couple more weeks, what's wrong with thinking that this team that was supposed to be bottom 5 in the league might push for a top 5 playoff position? And as far as I'm concerned, it kind of reminds me of watching the process Sixers, even though the results weren't there for the Sixers, they're actually here for the Flyers, and that's way better. Nothing's better than just being able to watch your team carefree and not worry about it. Like this Eagles game, I wish the Eagles were out of the playoffs 5 weeks ago so I could just watch and laugh with everybody else. But no, instead the Eagles want to wring my heart out like a dirty dish rag after they blow a 2-touchdown
The Eagles
lead.
are not the ones keeping any kind of playoff hopes alive. We know this.
They are absolutely. If they are still alive,
the roller coaster
no,
that
just
you're
because
on
your
is
team's
the
about to
Dallas
get eliminated
Cowboys.
tonight doesn't mean I have to think that
Made it
mine already
personal.
is.
He made it
All we
personal
need to
for
do,
no
all we
reason.
need to do is win out.
My team
all we
has
need
the
to do is
same
win
record
out.
as your team, and
Wait, hold on. Let me ask you. If your team wins the rest of their games, what happens?
We're talking about the Flyers. It's your favorite topic.
He did this.
You
He
guys
did
are
this.
like kissing on the split screen.
You just know that you did this. Look, as
My
far
team
as-
wins out, nothing
I am
happens.
excited
Answer
to
your
watch
question.
games where I don't need to worry about my mentality being broken and destroyed after, and I like that. So yes,
But you just said you're in a playoff spot, so if they continue
but
this
you're
and
playing
get
with
to
house
the
money.
finals-
The Flyers had no expectations this year.
Anyway,
Truth.
My answer is no. You could sit here and try to yell to whoever that the Flyers are the most exciting team in the league, right? But it's just, I think in your heart of hearts, you know it's not true because the Sixers can do one thing and make headlines for a week, a la a Ben Simmons three-point jump shot. That made headlines for a week, not only in Philly news,
Whoa, wait, what's your paper say?
national media news.
Okay, it doesn't say who would create the best headline for the week. I'm just making sure.
Is
making
excitement
sure.
not creating a headline? Excitement doesn't create a headline to you.
So this is
Just 'cause the
this is
headline
my
says for
point
a
on
week.
that.
Excitement-
He said truth. He said no.
This just in. The Phillies have non-tendered Michael Franco and Cesar Hernandez.
Yay!
Not returning.
Not returned.
Not
Yeah,
returning.
Non-tendered, baby.
Getting back to the Flyers and the Sixers, I think that there are people in this city that are getting a little bit maybe bored by the 76ers, by the Joel Embiid pump fakes, by the Ben shooting not outside of 5 feet, by everything else. I agree with Max. I think this is a truth because I think the youth and the excitement is always going to be the best show in town. If for nothing else, then you have the most fun watching it, which to me is the most exciting. But we have to move on to the 76ers, full stop now. Tobias Harris.
Oh yeah.
He's had a little bit, an exciting season, you could say.
Apparently exciting means something different to Max. So
Well,
I don't know.
he's been making headlines and he's been volatile on the court, so both of those things equal exciting, but he's been better of late. So truth or no, the apology has not been as loud as the disrespect for Tobias Harris. So for the people at home, truth on this one, is he still being disrespected? No, is he now being properly rated?
Truth. The apology has not been as loud as the disrespect was, but I will say for a good reason. I think people want to give Tobias Harris praise. They want to see Tobias Harris be one of the reasons that the Sixers team takes the next step and move forward. But after you have an abysmal first 10, 11, 12 games of the season, when you have a good 5 or 6 stretch, I don't think everyone is just going to throw out what you did in the first 10, 11 games and forget it and now say, yes, Tobias Harris. This is the Tobias Harris we want. This is Tobias Harris that we're always going to remember. I think it's a little bit of cool. I'm glad you're doing better. I need to see this sustained for more than 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games. This needs to be sustained over a season.
Good point, truth.
I mean, it has to be a truth because the apology hasn't come. No one has started defending Tobias Harris. All I'm going to say is that if you want to look at it from a pure statistical, take out efficiency and all that, if you look at pure, strict, hard numbers compared to the rest of his career, he's actually having a good year statistically. With that being said, he probably has more usage than he's had in the past. So those raw numbers are probably a little bit misleading. I'm not going to sit here and say he's been the guy who's worth the contract that he's gotten, but I think people are expecting him to, just because he got this contract, to all of a sudden just instantly become like a Kevin Durant or Kawhi or LeBron tier.
Not Kevin Durant. Kawhi
That's
or
what, no, that's
LeBron,
what I'm
but-
saying. People are expecting that of him, and
But you pay $150 million for something.
You
So-
crazy
for something
sometimes,
big.
Philly.
For
Let me
something,
tell you.
For something bigger. Do you not? Do you
Hey, look, I
big
just
money
said
for
that he
something?
has not lived up to his contract what he
Make it
got
so.
at this point. All I'm saying is that he is not as bad as people are making out. People are acting like this guy, the guy is just completely incompetent on the basketball floor, and just because he's not scoring at the best clip and there leaves things to be desired, I'm not going to sit here and say he's been perfect top to bottom. But I think that his defense has certainly improved and that has been a big help for the Sixers. And he is starting to kind of get comfortable in the offense. It feels like after watching these last handful of games that he is starting to just realize, like, hey, I need the ball and I need to just be aggressive with it. Like, that's my job, and I think he's starting to pick up on that.
I'll agree with you that sometimes Sixers fans have unrealistic expectations of players.
As a city, we do.
As a city, we do. Tobias Harris is
for every sport. This is not a Sixers or Tobias Harris specific thing. This is Bryce Harper signs. We should be winning 105 games and going to the World Series instantly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So whether Tobias Harris is playing well or not, if you want that apology, keep playing better is my best advice. Whether he's playing well or not, the Sixers are still the only undefeated team at home this year. So I got a question for you guys. Truth or no, do the Sixers have the best home court advantage in all of the National
I wonder what the
Basketball
Sixers
Association?
fan across the table is going to say.
I'm going to provide you with hard evidence. What is a better source than one of the All-Stars on the team? You know what Ben Simmons said after...
Send this off camera. He's
Ben Simmons was getting
interviewed
interviewed by Serena Winters after they beat the Pacers. My man looked dead in that camera and he said, we don't want to lose at home. We are scared of the fans. If you start showing me any other team in the NBA or hell, any other sport, I'll go as far as say this. Consistently, for any city that has 4 major sports in it, you will not find a city that is more supportive of all 4 of those teams than Philadelphia, and it's not particularly close. It's really not.
Hold on, James, before you answer that.
Get 'em.
Do you describe that as best?
Get 'em.
Do you think the players
Absolutely.
who are afraid of their fan
Absolutely.
base is a good thing?
Results are results. You said it yourself. Only undefeated team at home still left this season.
All right, Daenerys. Daenerys, I did the Kyrie thing. Damn it, James. What do you think?
So that's an interesting point you make. It's something that I thought about too, and I was saying truth that the Sixers do have the best home court because of that. Then I started thinking about it and backing off a little bit, and they're not motivated because they want to play well in front of
That's
y'all.
what I'm saying.
They're motivated because they're scared.
Fear.
Literally feared that they're not going to be accepted anymore if they have a couple bad
God.
games.
Guess what? A little bit of fear is good. That's what sharpens the edges. That's what gets you detail oriented.
What gets the job done, I guess. What gets the job done. Look,
Oh my
y'all, it's
God.
the same fan base that decked Mike Scott in the parking lot of an Eagles game. But I will say this, that even the process Sixers, when they were winning 10 games for 3 years, had a string of sellouts that came close to breaking the NBA record with a 10-win team. That's a whole lot of support.
It helps
right
the tickets are $3 or $4.
That helps, but you can't tell me. I mean, the Knicks are a 10 to 12 win team. They are not selling out games right now. The Charlotte Hornets are not selling out games right now. There are teams who are definitely not selling out games, and 20,000 fans poured in every night to watch a team they knew was probably going to lose.
But you started leaning no. Do you have a better home court, or are you sticking with the Sixers?
I would probably stick. I would stick with the Sixers. The only thing I'd go outside of it was in that 5-year run, the Golden State Warriors probably had the best home court in the league.
If they were still at Oracle.
They were still at Oracle. It's not
I
at
would
Oracle
agree.
anymore. And I think there's a fine line between best home court and best fan base. There's a little bit of a fine line. The Sixers may have the most supportive fan base, but I think the Warriors had the best home court. It was the hardest place to win in Oracle when the Warriors
I
were
agree.
doing
As
the thing.
much as you can never, once the team hits that certain level of success, you stop cheering for them. But I gotta say, every playoff round, Warriors. That's probably the best. That's the only real NBA specific chant.
And I hated the Warriors, but every time Steph Curry hit a big 3 and that stadium would go rocking, I would hate it, but I appreciate it because I'd be like, that's probably awesome to hear if you're a fan of the Warriors.
Yeah, very cool. So we have to move into the end of our show now, guys. It's time for tap outs. Who wants to go first?
I got something
Go
this
ahead.
week.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
so this past weekend over Thanksgiving, I went down to meet my girlfriend's parents for the first time.
That's right.
Yeah, we've been dating for a year, and I just met her parents. They live out of state, if you didn't already put 2 and 2 together. So all I'm going to say is this. This is my first time ever going through some kind of ordeal like this. I think I did pretty well. All reports came back positive, 2 thumbs up, all that good stuff. Thank you. Please.
A gentleman.
All I had to do was just be a normal person and offer to pay for a couple
That's
things.
hard for some people.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
Especially the offering to pay. Not every people go offer to pay.
So I'll say this. I'm sure there's someone out there that's going to have to meet somebody special to them's mom, dad, aunt, uncle, someone important, childhood best friend, somebody. And look, I am not someone who gets anxious. I come up here and make a total fool of myself in front of everybody who watches every week. I clammy hands going like this all the time in the car ride back. My advice to you out there, whoever you are, just be yourself. The person who is introducing you to these people or this person, they're introducing you to them because they like you for who you are. So just rock out with who you are and you'll be fine. And that's really the lesson I got out of that. And also, just to tail on to that, I left Friday morning super early, didn't eat my Thanksgiving leftovers until tonight for dinner. Oh my God, they were so good. Nice little 5-day marinade in the fridge and the Tupperware. Mwah.
Yes, sir.
And that is it for me.
Max had a 2-part tap out 2 weeks ago. 2-part tap out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
how about that?
tongue twister.
And I'm having a 2-parter today. First one is very short. I love Thanksgiving leftovers. There are some people out there who don't like leftovers, who won't eat, like leftover bowl. Yeah, that's me. Like, I will eat leftovers till I am blue in the face, and there's nothing better than Thanksgiving. If you pop out and you see me have Thanksgiving food in January and February, mind your business, because I'm going to love it.
Mind your business.
Mind your business. That's all. Just mind your business. The second one is, after Thanksgiving comes the beloved holiday of Christmas. But this year, since Thanksgiving was so late, we are already 3 weeks away from Christmas. And guess who has not even thought about Christmas shopping yet? This guy right here.
All 4 of us? This is a clean sweep.
Like,
You too.
1, 2, 3 procrastinators. And here's the thing. As you get older, as you get to be an adult, Christmas shopping doesn't become a December 23rd type thing. It's not fun on December 23rd.
No.
As you get older, like, take a page out of the book of this Do As I Say, Not As I Do book from James Jackson. Go Christmas shopping early. You'll get better deals. It'll be less hectic, and you'll find better presents because it won't just be at the very last minute. So all my family, I'm sorry, you're probably getting the first thing off the shelf when I hit the mall, but I love y'all. It's the thought that counts, right? Also, happy birthday to my sister. Her birthday's on Wednesday.
Hey.
Nice. Great couple tap outs so far. I'm going to do something that's kind of taboo. Let's talk about my own fantasy teams for a second, actually.
Nobody cares.
So nobody cares. So I'm not talking about players specifically. I'm not going to tell you about how I have X, Y, and Z. I just want to tell you about my last 4 weeks of fantasy football. Currently, I am 19-0 across 5 leagues in my past 4 weeks.
You better knock on
of
some
fantasy.
wood, but like,
Go
go ahead.
Executive producer Jim is undefeated in the My New Philly League, and we're not going to talk about it anymore in my tap out.
All right.
You
So-
said 13-0? Oh no! Oh no!
I'm-
And Dalvin Cook just scored? Oh no!
I'm
Did
done
Kirk
with
Cousins
it.
score?
Yeah.
Did he really?
No, he now.
Then I don't wanna talk about
I'm
it.
sorry. Shut up.
Good Lord.
Go ahead, your timeout.
19-0, 20-0 if Chris Carson does not go for 36 tonight. I made the playoffs in all 5 of my leagues in contention. I have 2 buys of those 5. There's 2 that are 2-week playoffs. Some people, including Jake Alley, needs to learn how to set up a fantasy football league in the correct fashion.
Wait, what did he do?
Jake screwed it up. We could talk about this off camera. The second thing I have for you today, Jim, can you go back to the main? So I'm wearing a women's jacket.
Okay.
Yeah, please,
I
Max.
got you.
What is this?
Functional and stylish.
If anyone can tell me what this is, there's no back half to the zipper. It's just, you got some half cape action. Women's clothing makes absolutely no sense and was not designed for men. That's my tap out. Thank you guys so much for checking out Trust the Process Live.
Capes.
No capes. We are here
No capes.
every Monday night, 8 o'clock. Trust the Process Live, only on My New Philly, where something's always new and everything's
he doesn't have a
always
real blazer
Philly.
on.
Yeah, that's true.
Comment if you know what movie that's from. If you don't, I can't rock with you if you don't know what movie that's from.
Happy Cyber Monday, everybody.
If you want it. It's called Fashion. You wouldn't know about it.
9-7, baby. The dream. We're alive.
We out?